Mom splits hairs with nanny to save a few dollars and ends up back paying hundreds. Karen and Ken are wealthy and extremely stingy. Their kid is Bob. Henry is an extremely sweet, generous single dad who lost his husband a few years ago and dotes on his son Steve. I have been a nanny for several years now, and for the most part, I've worked with lovely, reasonable families. I have contracts for every family that guarantees the hours that I work, meaning if a family goes on vacation, I still get paid because I'm technically available to work, but they chose not to use my services. Think gym membership, where you pay regardless of whether you've been to the gym in a month. This is standard on nanny contracts. Another bit on my contract is called the nanny share. So if two of the families want to combine the day, each of them pays 2/3 of my regular pay rate. I get paid a little more for watching more kids, and they save a little, only paying a portion of what they would have paid. Karen and Ken's family went to Hawaii 3 weeks ago, and per my contract, I was to be paid as usual. Before they left, they asked if I could come in and watch the Bob the Sunday after they returned, so that they could recover and rest. I agreed, and my hours were set at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. that Sunday. They went on the trip, everything was wonderful, and they texted me when they landed saying they would see me at 8 a.m. The next day, when I was about to head out the door at 7:30 a.m., I received a text saying that Bob was just waking up. So I should just show up at 8:30 instead. After the day of nannying, Karen asked me if I would stay past my regular hours during the upcoming week so that they could have 2 date nights. I agreed, and Karen said she would reimburse me for all the extra hours at the end of the week, since it'd be easier just to make one payment. Totally fine with me. The week finished and I ended up staying an extra 8 hours total for the 2 date nights. I asked Ken to pay me for 16 hours, but he said he had to talk to Karen first to double check hours and would pay me shortly. When I got home, I received a text from Karen saying, "Hi OP, thank you so much for covering for us these past few weeks. Ken and I are feeling refreshed, and the show was hilarious. Since we were in Hawaii, you were paid for an entire week while you weren't working. We don't think this is quite fair, as it is a large sum of money, so we'd like to apply some of those hours to your babysitting today and yesterday. We will pay you for 8 hours instead." I was furious. I screenshotted the part of my contract that plainly stated I would be paid for any hours that their family was on vacation, and I reminded her that it was in violation of contract. She reluctantly agreed, and I texted that it would be a total of 16 hours. Karen instantly replied and went off, texting, "On Sunday, we ask you to come at 8:30, not 8. We are already being generous and paying you for the holiday we took. We expect you to track your hours better next time. This is unacceptable. You need to be as accurate as possible with the hours that we are paying you. We will pay you for 15.5 hours. Readers, this was a difference of $12.5. I was going to forward the part of my contract that said any rescheduling need a 24-hour notice, but instead I went nuclear. Bob has been tagging along with Steve and me to music class and soccer twice a week outside of Karen's regular contracted hours since January. Karen has never offered to pay for those hours, but Henry was fine with paying his full rate for those hours because Steve was having trouble making friends at school and had become close to Bob. I chose not to say anything about the slight bump in pay because I loved watching them play together. Malicious compliance time. As Karen stated, I needed to be as accurate as possible. I calculated all the hours that Bob has joined us since January, 6 hours per week times 18 weeks. And the total amount they owed was almost $2,000. In the group chat with Karen, Ken, and Henry, I said, Karen stated that it was of utmost importance that I tracked the hours as accurately as possible. So I took it upon myself to double-check everything, including the share hours. Thank goodness I did! I didn't realize we had forgotten to track all the hours that Bob joined us for soccer and music. Henry, I am so sorry. Karen actually owes you quite a bit of money. If my calculations are correct, they owe X dollars to you and X dollars to me. Henry replied, Karen and Ken, I am so disappointed to hear that OP hasn't been compensated properly this entire time. I don't need my hours to be refunded because I wanted Steve to continue his playdates, but you need to pay OP portion immediately. I got a huge chunk of money I wasn't expecting, and I am now on the hunt for my next nanny family. I'll be putting my 2 weeks notice with Karen and Ken as soon as I do. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get to 150 subscribers as soon as possible. No maps? I can do that. So my father and I have had a stilted relationship for a long while, but in recent years, he has been trying to extend an olive branch, and I've been trying to accept. This is confounded by the fact that, presented with any difficulty, he reverts to the bullheadedness that was a large part of breaking our relationship in the past. Normally, we take a small vacation once a year or two, just a father and son, to some mutual interest place. Typically, I do my level best to be driving for at least one leg of the trip, as otherwise I would have to sit through 2 legs driving barely at the speed limit. Now, a quick aside that's very relevant. My father has always been very proud of being technologically adverse and slow to adopt new technology, to the point where he exulted over having a smartphone with GPS in 2020. He preferred and prefers a more hands-on way of doing things, such as consulting a physical map to see which roadways are needed to be taken in order to get to a destination. That was fine growing up, but in the modern era, that thinking is just time wasting, in my opinion and experience. Yes, if you are in an area with no coverage, you're out of luck, but offline maps exist for a reason. I digress. On our most recent trip, my father was lamenting to me about how the youth of today cannot function without our device in our hands, and how he misses being able to take a trip into the wild. Wild roads, that is. No one in our family has ever been a fan of camping, with merely his sense of direction and general sense of roads being his guide. He bemoaned how I barely even pay attention to street signs, relying almost entirely upon maps telling me when to turn, and that we're all living far too fancily, or something. Now, normally, I just tune out his extended trends on the decline of society and the flaws of the youth of today, but this trip I was feeling rather malicious, as he had previously brought up some of his annoying acts that had initially soured our relationship. So as I made it downtown near where I worked and where I know 100% of the streets, I leaned over and switched off the GPS and calmly drove over the river into the next county. Cue an absolutely mental breakdown from Father Dearest, who demanded to know why I had done that, and a generally sad wailing on how we were now utterly lost and how would we make it back to society. I am slightly exaggerating here, since this was a couple years ago and I don't exactly remember what he said. I turned to him with the widest grin I could muster and asked in the sweetest butter wouldn't melt in my mouth voice, "I thought you didn't like using GPS." Quite unfortunately, he didn't get the hint, or was panicking too hard to, and just stridently demanded that I turn the GPS back on. Unfortunately, deprived of maps as I was, I had to guess where a U-turn would be, and after a couple false starts, I found a nice place to flip back, 5 miles from the river. As stated before, downtown is my wheelhouse, so once we made it back, I just calmly dropped him off at his hotel, no harm done. I don't really have a satisfying ending, but hopefully, I don't get any more rants on the uselessness of GPS. I love it. Oh, well done. But honestly, I think the skill of using paper maps is very important. I think of it as of extra option of a kind. But to be honest, I cannot really read them for the life of me. Make this pack of beers fit in that fridge. They don't fit. We were going camping 40 years ago. We had a pop-up trailer with a built-in mini fridge with a sink and cooktop. My dad said, "Put these beers in the fridge." I took the beers, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was a 12-pack of long neck glass bottles. I opened the fridge and put the beers in. They didn't all fit. I put them all upright. I guaranteed that the door could close and that none would fall out when you opened the fridge. There were some in the door where condiments go. It was pretty full. I reported back. They were angry when they heard that they didn't all fit. They commanded that I go back and put all the beers in the fridge and not to come back until that was done. Could the beers still be on their side with the fridge door still closing and I could stack them up? No. Could I put beers that are upside down with the beers that are right side up? It wasn't stable. I worked at it for a while since I didn't have a time limit. I like geometry. I'm good at math. I like puzzles. Still, it could not be done. I was satisfied that volume of the beer challenged the volume of the fridge and that there were possible alternative unstable stacking method that could get some more bottles in there, but woe to anyone who opened the fridge because the cascade of beers would be impressive. Feeling confident, I reported back that the request could not be done. They were enraged. It strikes my adult self that I should have just reported victory and hid the other beers somewhere else in the camper until there was room in the fridge. Maybe I should have drunk the ones that didn't fit. I was young though, didn't think of that. They were so mad. I had to go back and fit them all in the fridge. Okay then. I went for an unstable arrangement of beers and worked at it for some time until I could just slam the door closed in time to form a seal. Eventually, they opened the booby trap door. The camper was not level. As the door opened, the beers all rolled out of the fridge in a rush for the open door of the camper, like salmon jumping free when the dam is released. But they crashed in pools of broken glass and beer on rocks. My dad caught a few, like an Alaskan bear on the river. He got like 2 in each mitt. I expected to be yelled at again, but no. Strangely, the worst of it was reporting the news that they didn't fit and not an aftermath of the Great Beer Migration. I love it! Great Beer Migration! I think I will change my nickname to that. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can also watch that awesome video or this awesome playlist. See you next time!